Alright, welcome back for another video. And today, got a few pieces I wanted to cover that's, things that have unfolded over the past few days. First and foremost, want to take a look at the markets from a technical standpoint. Starting with the S&P 500. To me, this looks like a triple top going on. As I mentioned, so much volatility in the markets right now. Just over like a 5-day period, S&P ran up like 13% or so. So yeah, I expect it to pull back a little from this point, and expect any major dumps or anything coming. I just think we'll pull back and kind of stabilize and slowly continue up. So crazy times we're in right now, though. All right, looking at Bitcoin, I think that maybe we have one more move up off this consolidation and then maybe get rejected around close to that 20,000, trying for a new high. Maybe not, could just trade sideways here from now on. Either way, as you can see, we're definitely, in this resistance area of the all-time high. As I've said, I don't expect us to make a new high this year. I just think that, could have one more move up and get rejected or just trade sideways. Okay, so that's kind of my take over the next few months in Bitcoin. And, in relation to that, I think the crypto mining stocks are still going to be a great play, the Bitcoin mining stocks. So both Riot, this is Riot, and Marathon are looking great from a technical standpoint. And then the fundamentals behind Bitcoin are on support of more continuation up with these mining stocks. So I actually finally added some Riot or Marathon patent to my portfolio. I only had some Riot exposure. I see Marathon's kind of basically competing directly with them and have been acquiring a lot of mining equipment heading into next year. So I think that that's going to be a big deal. And I just want to have both. I don't know. I can't predict the future. I don't have a crystal ball. So my strategy is just going to be to hold both Riot and Marathon patent instead of one or the other. All right. One thing that's kind of interesting that we need to pay attention to is this narrative playing out, right? So Ripple CEO cautions public companies against holding Bitcoin. So this would include both Riot and Marathon patent would be directly affected if any legal changes were made about crypto or Bitcoin mining in general. But anyway, the executive says that public companies that choose to hold the world's largest cryptocurrency may want to pay attention to climate change related regulations. After calling MicroStrategy's bet bold and brilliant in early September, Garlinghouse has now adopted a more critical stance towards companies that hold Bitcoin. So for those of you that don't know, MicroStrategy put, I believe, about close to $500 million into Bitcoin September, and I think that was like half of their cash reserves at the time. So, at the time, obviously, Garlinghouse says that it was bold and brilliant. Now he's telling them, basically, he said his most recent tweet refers to the New York Times article that lays out how President-elect Joe Biden is going to tackle environmental issues with his executive orders. So basically, Garlinghouse was more bullish towards holding crypto, Bitcoin specifically, until Biden was elected up to this point. And it's mostly because on his first day in the White House, Biden would sign an executive order that would make public companies disclose climate risks. So I don't think any of this is going to matter over the next year or so, but I think that this could play out later on down the road. So it's just important to pay attention to this narrative, this climate change narrative, because all that is going to depend, right, on who's in control, who's the president, and so on, what regulations we get towards climate change. But as I said, heading into the next few years, I don't think that this is going to affect Bitcoin at all. But in the long run, it could definitely have an effect on companies like Riot or Marathon Patent, as well as any of these other companies, Circle, so on, that are holding Bitcoin on their balance sheet. All right. I want to point that out because it's going to be important to pay attention to this narrative for the long term. All right. Moving on. More bullish Bitcoin info. JP Morgan's analysis shows institutional investors moving from gold ETFs to Bitcoin. JP Morgan has highlighted evidence of institutional demand for Bitcoin and investors moving from gold exchange-traded funds to the cryptocurrency. The firm points out that Bitcoin demand is driven not only by younger retail investors, but also by institutional investors, such as family offices and asset managers, right? As I've showed you before, GBTC is going to be in demand for portfolios, but so will mining stocks. If like Charles Schwab or Fidelity, any of them have mutual funds on their platform that by default have Riot or Marathon in it, they're going to have to buy just to fulfill. If people are buying those funds, then they have to buy the stock that goes in the funds. So this, once again, information like this shows me that short term, maybe more, over the next year or so, I'm very bullish on Bitcoin. And then articles like this cautioning against holding Bitcoin for the long term. All right. Some more bullish news. Why billionaires are suddenly accumulating Bitcoin after a 113% year-to-date gain. Hedge fund manager Stanley Druckenmiller became the latest billionaire to publicly disclose his Bitcoin investment. Investors increasingly are starting to view Bitcoin as gold 2.0. Druckenmiller emphasized that the brand of Bitcoin as a store of value only improves as time passes. Said Bitcoin could be an asset class that has a lot of attraction as a store of value to both millennials and the new West Coast money. And as you know, they get a lot of it. It's been around for 13 years. With each passing day, it picks up more stabilization as a brand. All right, so I just wanted to point that out because, more and more hedge fund managers, billionaires are starting to jump on board, basically, to publicly say it's go time. So, I don't see anything negative right now, to be honest. The crypto space as a whole, I believe, is going to blow up. So next year is my timeline, basically, by the end of next year, when I expect to see this bull market and maybe even getting close to peak. Who knows? But the altcoins will start flying more next year. I think the rest of this year you're going to see maybe one more move up from Bitcoin and some consolidation. We'll see how it all unfolds. But last but not least, wanted to let you guys know that Binance has begun to block US users from accessing its exchange platform. An email obtained by the block directed a user to withdraw their funds within 90 days if they were based in the US. The move comes more than a year after Binance first announced that it would stop serving US residents from September of 2019. So, if you have money on Binance, get it out of there, because there's going to come a time where you've been stopped out. It's going to be very hard to get your funds off of there if and when they have finally said, all right, you guys are done. All right, so just as a just be cautious, prepare for any situation like this. I don't want to see people get stuck with money on exchanges that are shady and they'll never be able to access again. So be careful out there. As always, please like and subscribe, share with your friends and family, and stay tuned for the next one. Thanks.
What is a cashless society? What does it actually mean in a literal or a high-level sense?
Money will become like these. relics of a different age, and will only be found in places like this. In other words, hard cash will disappear. It will become electronic, transferred by things like these.
Then Tracy is in Beijing to show us what a nearly cashless society actually looks like. Ben, good morning.
Mobile payment transactions in China reached a cumulative total of 277.4 trillion RMB in 2018, ranking #1 in the world, according to the recently released statistical report on internet development in China. As of June 2019, online payment users in the country reached 633 million. The cashless society is now approaching.
When's the last time you paid with cash? Well, chances are cash has taken a backseat to the plastic in your wallet and smartphone pay apps.
Denver 7's Ryan Luby explains the digital pay revolution and why not everyone is on board.
The cashless society, the cashless society.
The cashless society.
The cashless society is now approaching.
The cashless society.